Michigan. And I don't think I will ever figure out why particularly immigrant organizations seem to have these very long names. So I'm not sure. Because almost everyone I know, every organization I know has this very long name. And often they're names that get abbreviated, but then people forget what they stand for. So anyways, can we do a quick round of introductions? Can you tell me your name and which high school you're from? Sure. Okay, you want to start?
I'm Sahana, and I go to Plymouth High School. I'm Nancy, and I also go to Plymouth High School.
Actually, can you also tell me your year?
Yeah.
Sorry.
So I'm a senior.
Okay.
I'm also a senior. I'm Karen, and I go to Northville High School, and I'm a junior. I'm Kushbu. I'm a senior at Plymouth High School.
I'm Chintan. I'm a senior at Plymouth High School.
I'm Cindy. I go to Huron, and I'm a senior.
Okay. Huron is in Ann Arbor, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yep.
I'm Priya. I'm a sophomore at Troy High.
I'm Sophia. I'm also a sophomore at Troy High.
I'm Rosie, and I'm a sophomore at Troy High too.
Okay.
I'm Esther, and I'm a sophomore at Troy High.
I'm Pooja. I'm a junior at Troy High.
I'm Ellen, and I'm a freshman at Troy High.
I'm Sarah, and I'm a freshman at
Oh, wow, okay. So are you guys part of an Asian club at Troy High, or how did you find out about the conference?
We came here last year.
Okay,
Some of us came last year.
okay. And you liked it, so you decided to come back? Yeah. Okay. What about you guys?
Yeah, I've come, this is my third year right now.
Okay. So you've enjoyed the content?
Yeah.
That's why you came back? Okay, great. And you guys, are you all part of the Asian Pacific Club at Plymouth, at PISA?
Well, I mean, there's that one and then also the Indian American Student
Yeah.
Association. So yeah.
So do you guys overlap, or like how does it work?
I mean, our students might overlap, but we kind of like,
Yeah.
as a club overlap so much. Yeah.
Okay. So everyone at this table, with the exception of you, I forgot your name, Kushbu? Are you the senior? Are you a senior too? Everybody here is a senior? Except for you, you're the junior, okay. I will not remember names. I wanted to, but I'm realizing as I'm looking at you guys that, okay, this was a failed exercise. Mohammed, you want to introduce yourself?
Oh, hey everyone, my name is Mohammed Rahman. I'm the community organizer with APIAVote Michigan, and I'm also sort of supervising the youth program as well. So if you guys are interested in the youth program,
So we have a high school youth program, and if you're interested in joining or know somebody who would be interested in joining, contact Muhammad. We will actually circulate a sign-in sheet in a second. So we're going to do a small exercise called Power Flower, which makes it sound like it's a hippie exercise from the 60s, but it's really not. So I'm going to pass out paper and markers, and I'm not really sure why we have scissors. I'm assuming people later are going to be more creative than I am. Did everyone get one? No, I'm missing. Do you want to do it? Sure. Actually, we ran out of markers, but hang on. I have I think I have really thick markers. I can give you one of those. Or we have pens. You're welcome. So, I'm not sure how great that will work for writing, but we'll see. Okay, so what we're going to do is hopefully we're a small enough group that will hopefully form one big circle after and sort of discuss. But initially, I'll guide the discussion, but initially you'll discuss in pairs. But if you can just draw a flower with your name in the center and then 7 petals. like whatever you want it to look like. But just make sure the petals are big enough that you can write in them, because you're going to be writing in the petals. Yes?
My marker's dead.
Your marker is dead here. Let's float around extra pens for people whose markers are dead, I'm sorry. Here, I can give you these too, I just don't know how well it'll work with mine. Here, I'll put you another one here. It's okay, no one's judging your art, I promise. Does everyone have their petals? Okay. I should have actually asked a question. Did all of you consent to being recorded? Was that part of it? Like, did everyone sign that release? Is everyone okay with it?
I didn't sign it, but I think it's fine.
You think it's fine? Okay, I just wanted to make sure, because if someone doesn't want it, we can request that it not be recorded. So I don't want you to feel obliged to be recorded. Is everyone done? Okay, so now you're going to fill in, and this is completely self-identifying. You don't have to base it on any census category or any way that you feel you've been identified. Describe yourself how you feel most authentically described by whatever word, term, phrase. It doesn't really matter. So, and you can pick wherever you start in your petals, but each category will go in a single petal. So in the first one, put gender. However you, I mean, a gender descriptor, however, whichever you want. In the next one, put ability. So ability and disability. And if it's, again, you can choose not to share these, so even if it's something that you don't want to necessarily share with everybody else, but it's helpful if you're honest in your descriptions. Do you want to join us? In the third one, you put class. You can put whatever you want. There's no right or wrong answers. In the fourth one, put immigration status. So documented, undocumented, citizen, permanent resident, visa holder, refugee, those are some categories that are often used. In the next one, I've sort of lost count, but in the next one, put religion. And in the next one, put whatever your first language is. And if you know multiple languages, just keep putting them in the same petal underneath, in whatever order of proficiency you feel. Do we have one petal left, I hope, because I lost count, right? Okay. In that, put race or ethnicity. Okay. Now let's mix it up a little bit. Can I get, who should we start with? Can you come over here? Yep. And Monzi, you come over here. And now what the two of you do is you draw another one and only put in the things in the petals that are common. So if there's things that are unique, leave them in your own and just put the common ones in here. So we get a sense of what you share in common. Okay? Who's our next pair? You want to come over here, Carrot? Cannon, sorry. You two want to do it? And then, can we do some more mixing up? Can I get you over there? So what you're doing, sorry, I sort of gave individual instructions. What you're doing is you're comparing your two. Also, I do want to step back and say that if you're not comfortable sharing, you can skip that petal. Like, I don't want anyone to feel placed on the spot, so don't feel forced to share. If you're comfortable sharing, go ahead and share. And then the one on the blank piece of paper will contain only the things that you have in common, not the things that are unique. Who can I get over here? One of you want to come over here, please? Okay, and can we separate you two? So can someone else?
Yeah, you heard that.
Eventually, we have so many Troy people that we're gonna have to work together, which is a good thing. So you want to start with here?
I agree with you.
You want to just try?
We'll do that. So I'm a senior too.
I'll take it. I said good job if you were saying.
Yeah, I have some.
What are we doing?
So do you all know the friend? At least
Is everyone done? Okay, so if everyone is done, can we want to shuffle a little bit more. But pairs need to stay together, so we're just going to make a quadrant, okay? So can I get you two, please, to come over here? We'll add chairs here. So this is going to be now out of the two
combined flowers.
Yes, you will make one combined flower that will represent your quadrant.
Okay.
Okay? And then one group is not going to have a quadrant. Mohammed, can you join a group, please? We're short people. You guys all know each other already? No? You guys all know each other?
I know.
Okay. So why don't the four of you work together? Come and work with these guys, otherwise we're going to be short for you. So he wasn't part of the pair because I didn't do mine, which I shall have. But now, so what you're doing now is you have two common flowers now, right, that you did with your partner. Now take that and take the common flower from the other pair and see for the four of you, so for your quadrant, what's in common. This one here is going to be a trio. So you're drawing a new flower and you're going to say, okay, from that one and that one, what ends up being common? And I'm sorry I didn't count ahead of time, and then I would have participated, so it would have been even, but hopefully it's okay.
Because we could put Asian.
Probably.
Oh, like, yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that.
Oh, they're on here too.
Oh, okay. Wait, should we make it? So, do we make this combined?
Yeah, you make a combined one. Did I not give you a piece of paper? Sorry. You make a combined one.
That's a weird class.
Okay.
So who has the prettiest flower? Who wants to draw the largest flower, I guess? Any volunteers? You want to draw a large flower if you're done? Okay. You want to go ahead and draw it on that big piece of paper?
And then,
This time though, when you draw, so the circle doesn't need to be that big, but the petals need to be big. But draw the 7 and then draw like another petal outside each of the 7. So you end up with 14 petals, but it's like 2 rings. Okay, thank you. I'm glad we have artists here.
so are you from here?
I went to.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I went to Castle.
Oh,
For Athens,
If you're done with your combined flower, I don't want to shut down the discussion. But, so the reason this is called the power flower is that we're trying to assess how empowered we feel compared to dominant society, okay? And there's no right or wrong answer, because one person who is, for instance, disabled in some way could feel very empowered and not feel that able-bodied people have power over them or hold more power. Other people who face a lot more barriers might feel that that's a completely different power dynamic, right? So there's no right or wrong answer, but now in your individual one, not in your pairs one, and not in your quadrant one. Actually, you could do it in your quadrant run. The only okay, so quick question. How many petals did you end up having writing in your quadrant ones? You guys had 6? Oh, wow, okay. 4? 5? 3? Okay. So in your, I don't know, I think actually maybe it's better. So start with the quadrant one, and then just go back to your individual, because I think we'll run out of time if we do quadrant, pair, and individual. But for the quadrant one, for the petals you have writing in, sort of figure out as a group, what do you think the adjective is that describes sort of the opposing position of power, whatever it is. So for instance, if you think that you speak English as your first language, and that is the position that holds most power, then even if you put English, just put English in the outside petal. Okay? So you're going to end up with an outer ring of petals, like, sorry, Khushbu? Is that your name? Yes? Okay. So like she drew here. So in this outer ring, if you had English here, just put English. But if you feel that there's some other word, like if you think it's French, if you think it's Hindi, if you think whatever it is, but the outer ring is going to have the descriptors that you think hold more power. And even if you share those, it's fine. But we want to see like what kind of agreement we have around those terms. Okay? And then we'll do it all together for all of us.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
You can, so what you can do is you can do these 3 as a group, so and then you can do your individual ones.
So like I would say like, well I think the answer to that like I ended on position 7
practice when everybody else is out.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, our buildings, yeah. Wait, what are we doing?
That's okay. So what? What you're doing is you're saying that if you think that Chinese as a descriptor holds the most power, then you're going to put out here Chinese. Again, if you don't want to spell title, you can just put the word. But if you feel that another race holds more power, and the most power actually in whatever setting you want to describe that in, then you would write that here. And so we're just trying to see how we feel in terms of how we describe ourselves in what holds power.
If I did white, so far, power would just write.
Yeah, yeah. You would just write that.
Okay, you want me to write it?
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, let's write like coffee. Okay, so you think A4 I think it was research.
Yeah, this one.
English.
You guys
And
are
then middle.
Let's circulate this two over.
But you should do them your, but like you do all the sheets. You do it with all your sheets.
What did you guys individual?
But does it have like more? We do the partners too.
This was the one that all four.
No, she said
Yeah.
non-partner, just individual.
Do you have any
Yeah.
disagreement around that?
Yeah, I think that's like yeah.
So let me ask you a question. If someone was Jewish, do you think they would have the same view of this? That they would think that Christianity was
We don't.
It really depends like where they grew up. Because if they grew up like in America, they might be like Christianity more powerful if they grew up like somewhere outside of this.
So do you think that would hold true for you guys too? Like, do you think that's a very American context, or do you think that it would differ based on?
A lot to do with our race.
Especially since like American, like most are like the honey fathers were Christian too.
What is the youth program do?
Do you feel that you have to, like, is the ideal for you the outer petal, or is it just sort of like your perspective?
Yeah, that's so awesome.
Like, would you aspire for that?
I run the American Student Association, so I've been trying to bring that flavor into that club too. So that kind of stuff, I've been looking into, that's why I was really excited to come here, because I wanted that kind of workshop. You know, I wanted to be exposed to things like that, so I
You're
could
trying
bring it
to
to our health.
Yeah, I gotta find you like
really just
Well, our students are the most invested in like social justice and diversity. So I've been studying that, or I've tried to start that, so that
from either the position
at least
of your power,
when you can open them up
or
a little bit.
from your
show them
perspective as a non-Jewish.
The then they might be more interested in like sharing their experiences and stuff.
less power
Because
than
last
you
week we did a
do,
workshop
how would
on
you help
privilege,
them feel
just to show
empowered?
that
How would you
there's
help
more
them
diversity
exercise
than
their
others.
Like, you know,
Like you have
realizing
to
how much
override
opportunity you
sometimes, because we
have.
want to send
Because like,
these kids out
America,
to college
as
and
opposed to like most
resources,
other
like
countries,
knowledgeable about
being
these
empowered,
things.
being in a position of power, even if
We
you're
want them
like.
to care about those
House.
Yeah.
Realizing that,
Because right now our
there's a lot of
club focuses a
opportunity
lot
to
on
get
our
power.
MPQ show, which is like a dance show. And so we've been trying to like come away a little bit from that so we can do more workshops and once every 2 weeks.
Yeah, so like, I know once a week, stuff, so like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's for good for each other,
Yeah.
So
So we did like the privilege track workshop. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and I think
Right now,
so
like,
that was
there's
what we
capitalism,
started with, just because
if
I
you were
don't know,
born
we're
to a
also
rich
kind of
family, or if you're born,
so we wanted to start with something that like there is an activity outlined for, and then with the discussion questions we can kind of get them to talk a little bit. Although like they weren't so pros to it. And I feel like with the inquiry sometimes it's like people aren't supposed to know your business. So I don't know if that specifically is it, but yeah, that's what I'm hoping as we do more of these workshops, we'll be more comfortable.
Can we come back to the big group? So can everyone just, we sort of aren't structured for a circle, but can we make a larger circle maybe over here? Around this one? And who wants to volunteer to write? Have you been voluntold to write? And I do not want to stand in the middle. That is, okay, this is a bad idea because now I'm in the middle. That's not what I was intending. So I'm curious, what were the categories that you came up with for how you view holding the most power? And was there any disagreement among your quadrants about it? Was there like this group over here I got to talk to and they told me that there was pretty much consensus, but did your quadrant have consensus also? What were the categories you came up with?
So for able, we said able.
Okay.
Female, we said male. English speaking, we said English speaking. Asian, we said white.
Okay. And those were the ones you had in common?
Yeah.
Okay. And then for your own, when you did, what were the others? Religion, what did you come up with?
Well, I said Christianity.
Okay.
I did too.
You did too? You all said that? Okay. What about with this group? Did you agree with the ones that they had, that they said? Okay.
And then we also had for class we want
The upper class, the rich, okay. And you also all had agreement on sort of, okay. What about this group over here? I hate this, sorry, like I said, this is a bad idea. I don't want to stand in the front like a teacher, but then I feel like when I'm turning my back is to one group or the other, so sorry. What did you guys come up with?
Yeah, we mostly agreed on the ones that we had in our quadrant.
Okay,
Or who was in power.
okay. So did you have any other term besides the ones that we've already sort of discussed? Okay. So, question, what out of, and this is just to sort of start, to talk about it a little bit, but out of the identifiers that you used yourself, do you think that one of them sort of outweighs the other in terms of putting you at a disadvantage or putting you in a disempowered position, like overall? I am going to move because this is really awkward. I'm going to come over here and join this circle. How about that? So, anyone want to volunteer? Yeah?
So I guess I'm tied between being Indian and female, I think those are things people make judgments on when they see you.
Okay.
So that's not something like you have to engage in conversation or like, get to know a little bit more about like maybe religion or something. But like, at least for me, you can't tell what religion I am when you see me. But when you see me, you can know that I'm female or that I'm Asian. So I think that automatically gives people that mindset or prejudice when they meet you.
Interesting. Anybody else? Mohammed, you're going to be forced to share. Sorry.
Sure. So I guess race would really
What did you use to describe yourself?
Asian American.
You did use Asian
Yeah.
American? Okay.
Yeah.
How many people used Asian American out of curiosity? One?
Sure.
Did everyone? No, I'm just like, again, there's no right or wrong. I'm just curious. Like, did you use sort of your country of origin versus Asian American? Like, did you say Korean or Chinese or Indian or Bangladeshi or Pakistani or whatever, or Hmong? I mean, what, like, is that what your first identifier was? Yeah? Okay. No, it's just, what? Yeah, keep going, keep going. I just realized that we never talked about that and I was curious.
Yeah. So I thought I guess that one really stood out because because it does go back to like nation of origin and whatnot, because Asian Americans are generally perceived as like they're well off, they're upper middle class, they're highly educated and whatnot, and I as a Bangladeshi immigrant don't really fall into that. My parents came here and pretty much had nothing, so it was really hard for my family. And yeah, I guess I'm perceiving it differently when people first look at me.
So does everybody have to deal with the model minority myth? Is that unanimous? Does everyone feel that that's sort of the perception? Do you think, how do you think we contribute to that ourselves as individuals? Do you think sometimes it feels good to be perceived that way and so we sort of perpetuate it, or do you think that we interrupt it? What do you do to interrupt it, I guess? So do you guys know about the push for disaggregated data? No. So you know how we said that none of us really sort of intrinsically identifies as Asian American, but it's almost a category that sort of is thrust upon us because of the way sort of structures categorize things in the United States. But the reason I bring that up is because historically, the reason the phrase came around was because a professor in California was actually trying to gain power for Asian Americans and realized that Koreans, Japanese, and Chinese in the area of California where he was living by themselves were not enough to gain power, but if the three came together, they actually could gain some power. And so he coined the term Asian American and persuaded them all to work together under this umbrella and to also put aside sort of, I don't want to call it baggage because they're real hurts, but things that they had brought over sort of from previous generations and home countries. So Japan and Korea had a war. So now there may be Koreans who don't want to work with Japanese or vice versa. But he sort of persuaded them that the issue at hand, where they lived, was so important that they needed to put those differences aside and fight for, it wasn't clean water, but I'll just use that as an example. But if you're fighting for clean water in your neighborhood, at one, it makes sense to consolidate and build power instead of worrying about differences that perhaps aren't affecting you right now, right? Or that are really minor compared to access to clean water, right? So, but I think it's interesting that we sort of have to make that conscious effort to override what our instinctive response is, because our instinctive response isn't Asian American when someone asks us. And I think at the same time, when we participate in a Pan-Asian conference like this, or like APIAVote is Pan-Asian, I think we have to remind ourselves that it is about building power. And that's why we're doing it, because I think then sometimes if I have a chip on my shoulder about being Muslim in a group where there's not a lot of Muslims, or I have a chip on my shoulder about being Pakistani when there's not a lot of Pakistanis in the group. I think when you remind yourself of the purpose, then I'm not saying that whatever is maybe triggering you is not valid, but you can actually overcome it. Are you okay? Okay. So, quick question. About when we were talking about the model minority, nobody really came up with suggestions about interrupting it. Do you feel pressure because of that perception? Do you feel pressured because of what Muhammad said, that people think that Asians are, what, rich and well-educated? Are those the two things he said? Yeah.
I think it's maybe not pressure, but I feel like you don't receive credit for the work you do, right? Like when you, like Asian Americans achieve something, or they get good grades, or you know they like work for positions, or you know make that money. It becomes an attribute of, oh well, all Asians do that, or Asians are just all Asians are smart, all Asians are well educated, and instead of, oh well, everyone has to work as hard to achieve that, or they had to work hard too. There's less validation for your hard work.
Is that a common experience? Yeah. Do you find that you're able to interrupt it in that way, by saying something like that?
I think that's the goal, is to try to, when people say, oh, well, that's because they're Asian, well, no, you know, like they have to go through hardships, and not all Asians start off the same place, or, you know, have access to the same opportunities, and everyone struggles. Like, I think it's just about, like, when someone says that, you try to correct them or educate them.
So there was a really interesting study. It's interesting that you guys bring that up. There's a really interesting study. I can send the link later if you get your email, but I don't know if you saw it. It actually, what do you call it? It enumerated sort of the amount of disposable income that many Asian parents spent on sort of education resources for their children. And so what they found was that many Asian parents were spending a lot more, whether it was time or money, for specifically the education of their kids.